Hello, Lowell here with GamerGuides.com. If you're a real gamer like me and want to play through Clair Obscur Expedition 33 on the highest difficulty, even though you can change it anytime you want outside of battle, you've come to the right place. This video is largely spoiler-free, other than showing some monsters, also known as Nevrons, you'll go up against. So Expedition 33 has 3 difficulties: Story, Expeditioner, and Expert. For the first 2 difficulties, you don't really have to dodge and parry that well in order to clear the story, though some optional bosses and challenges will give you some trouble if you don't get good at both mechanics. On Expert, especially in the first few areas, this is completely necessary because enemies hit much harder. More importantly, dodge and parry timing is much more precise. As only babies would play on Expeditioner and bump up the difficulty once they get the hang of combat, you'll have to master dodging, parrying can come later, before leaving the prologue because many Nevrons will one-shot you outside of Lumiere. There's 2 repeatable battles where you can practice no matter what difficulty you choose. There's a strange mime found near the harbor in Lumiere that will require precise timing to dodge its 2 different attacks: a 3-hit punching combo and a 4-hit hammer attack. If you fail, you can quickly retry until you get the timing down perfectly. If you beat him, you can reload an old save. You can also duel Mael as many times as you want during the Expeditioner's Festival, even if you beat her. She attacks with a sword combo and an ultra-powerful slash. Dodge and parry timing is mostly trial and error, but as a general rule, pay attention to the name of the attack marked by the banner at the top of the screen, and watch your opponent's weapon, dodging, and this is important, as it comes near the attackee, not as your opponent begins their attack. Later enemies will alternate between several attacks that have wildly different speeds, throw in jumps, hurl oddly placed projectiles, and even require you to master a special type of counter. Thankfully, Expedition 33 is forgiving with autosaves, meaning you can quickly try again even against more difficult Nevrons as you learn their patterns. Before long, you'll be dodging and experimenting with parries against Nevrons you're facing for the first time. You'll just experience a bit of growing pains, particularly in the Spring Meadows area. Next up is attributes. I'll provide a more detailed look at attributes in another video and link it in the description below. But as a general rule, vitality and agility are the 2 most important stats, as health gains from vitality are great up until about 20 points put into it, and agility allows you to attack more often, but this is mostly true for the lower 2 difficulties. On Expert, Nevrons hit much harder, so vitality is a bit less useful, and you want to practice dodging and parrying as much as possible, so I wholly recommend putting all your points into Might to raise your attack power, at least for Act 1. You may have noticed that weapons scale from specific stats, denoted by a little sword icon and a letter grade on the attribute accolation screen. But early on, you'll want to equip the highest level weapons you have, and the only attribute that scales with all weapons is Might. Therefore, level Might until you find a weapon for a specific Expeditioner you want to build off of, and then use a recoat to allocate those skills. The difference in attack power shouldn't be that high, and anyway, for much of the game there's a 9,999 damage cap. You'll hit it more often than you think. For example, for much of Act 2, I've been using the Demonerium weapon for Lune as it scales off of luck, increasing her critical hit chance. With specific Pictos, she has a 90% chance to crit, which deals 50% more damage total. Furthermore, a high critical chance allows her Elemental Trick skill to fill up her Stain gauge with 4 elements, thus letting her use the ultra-powerful Elemental Genesis skill that completely deletes most Nevrons. I'm getting a little ahead of myself though. As I mentioned, Pictos, the equipable passive skills that you can then master and share between your party members, also provide bonuses to health, speed, defense, and critical rate. Unless you're going for a critical build, leading the Pictos with high health and speed, defense is less important. Remember, you only get these stat bonuses if you equip the Pictos in one of the 3 slots. You don't get them when you assign them with Lumina points after mastering them. You can sort your Pictos by highest level or by highest specific stat. When you have plenty of Lumina points, gained from using Colors of Lumina at camp and by leveling up, I wholly recommend equipping Pictos for their stats rather than the passive skills when going up against tough bosses. When facing regular Nevrons, feel free to master more Pictos and experiment. There are a couple powerful Pictos that you can get near the end of Act 1 that will help quite a lot, like Auto Shell, which provides a defense boost at the start of battle. More importantly, you'll want to nab the Confident Picto that drops from this big bad Nevron called a Hexka in the Stone Wave Cliffs. It'll reduce all damage by 50%, giving you a bit of room to breathe on the toughest difficulty. Master it and equip it to each of your Expeditioner's Luminas, despite its hefty 20-point cost. Confident comes with a catch though, as it negates healing, but enemies hit so hard anyway that healing-based skills are a bit less effective on Expert. Finally, my last piece of advice is to take your time. I know I'm being a little bit cheeky about getting good, but the more you explore, the higher level you'll be and the better Pictos and weapons you'll have. Each overworld enemy drops some form of new weapon or Picto that upgrades them if you already have it. And if you run into an optional boss that's way too tough, take a look at your Pictos to assemble a strategy to beat it or come back 10 levels later. Much of the overworld is meant for late game adventuring, so don't feel too frustrated no matter what difficulty you're on if you can't beat some massive roaming Nevron, for example. So, with all this information, you're definitely a real gamer and shouldn't have much trouble reaching Act 3, where the difficulty ramps up a bit more. By then you should have a good grasp of Expedition 33's systems, working out powerful builds for the Expeditioners for yourself. Regardless, I plan on putting together a builds guide for each of the playable characters in the near future, so watch for that. As such, you should definitely like this video and subscribe to GamerGuides.com so we can continue fulfilling all your gaming needs.